Welcome back, everyone, to the smartest year ever, our quest to become the world's greatest conversationalist. My name is Gordy, hello, and it is Brain Week. So I was just wondering what happens when you live in total darkness with no clocks, no sunlight, and no sense of time. Can your brain still tell you what day it is, or does time itself start to unravel? Like and subscribe if you haven't so you can keep up every single day. I do this every single day. In 1962, a French speleologist named Michel Siffre descended into a glacier cave in the French Alps with a wild plan. He wanted to live underground in total darkness for 2 months, no clocks, no sunlight, no idea what time it was ever. Why? You may ask, well, he wanted to figure out how our bodies track time when we're completely cut off from external cues. His bold self-experiment became one of the foundational studies of circadian biology. Inside this Circadian cave, Siffre kept no watch. His surface team communicated with him via telephone, but they were under strict orders never to mention the time. He slept when he felt tired, he ate when he felt hungry, and he kept a log of his physical and mental state. Here's a quote, one of his quotes about the day-to-day, if you call it day-to-day, I guess. He goes, "I had bad equipment and just a small camp with a lot of things cramped inside. My feet were always wet, and my body temperature got as low as 93 degrees Fahrenheit, 34 Celsius. My pastimes were reading, writing, and doing research in the cave. I also spent a lot of time thinking about my future." That is a lot of time to be thinking about your future. But the results were astonishing. Siffre's internal rhythm, his circadian cycle, gradually shifted to longer than 24 hours. His body adapted to a natural sleep-wake cycle closer to 24 and a half to 25 hours, and his sense of time, that completely broke down. In one psychological test that he had to do, he had to count from 1 to 120 at the pace of 1 number per second, but he consistently took 5 minutes to reach 120. So in other words, his internal clock was moving less than half as fast than it would be normally. He took 2 minutes, felt like 5. And he said, "I psychologically experienced 5 real minutes as though they were 2. Even more dramatically, when the experiment was over, his team told him that it was September 14th. It was time for the experiment to end. It's been 2 months, and he was stunned. He thought it was only August 20th. Like, his mind had compressed a 2-month experience into a single month. He said, "There was a very large perturbation in my sense of time. My psychological time had compressed by a factor of 2. 10 years later, in 1972, Siffre repeated the experiment in Midnight Cave, Texas, this time for 6 months. And once again, he lived in total isolation with only artificial light, and the results were even more extreme. He experienced hallucinations, memory lapses, and went into a deep depression. His perception of time became so distorted that entire days they blurred together. And he later reflected on it, and he said, "I believe that when you are surrounded by night, the cave was completely dark with just a light bulb, your memory does not capture the time, you forget. After 1 or 2 days, you don't remember what you have done a day or two before. The only things that change are when you wake up and when you go to bed. Besides that, it's entirely black. It's like one long day." Yet he keeps choosing to go down here. But anyway, yet through it all, though, Siffre's body still maintained a slightly longer than 24-hour circadian rhythm. In later experiments, his test subjects, sometimes he invited other people to do it in later experiments. And these other test subjects sometimes even adopted more dramatic cycles, staying awake for 36 hours and then sleeping 12 or more. So they literally got on these strange 48-hour loops where they were awake for 36, slept for 12, and then their day was essentially 48 hours long. But about his sleep in general, when he was down there, he said, "My sleep was perfect. My body chose by itself when to sleep and when to eat, and that's very important." So that's a win for him, at least. Siffre's findings help prove that humans have a natural circadian rhythm generated by the brain's suprachiasmatic nucleus, even in the absence of daylight. The French military took notice, hoping to use this research to see if soldiers could stretch their wake cycles, get more bang for the soldier buck, and so did NASA as well. Astronauts in space, especially on long missions, experience similar problems when detached from the sun's day-night cues. Siffre's work became foundational for developing artificial light protocols and sleep routines in orbit. And in 1999, Siffre did it again. Now, at this point, he was in his 60s, and he spent 2 months in Clamouze Cave in France to study the effects of aging on the circadian rhythm. You have to wonder what his relationship was with his wife. It's like they get in like an argument. he goes and just spends a couple of months in a cave by himself to reset. But this time, he reported that his rhythms also remained longer than 24 hours, but he found the isolation much harder to endure. He said, I felt more fatigue. It was more difficult to maintain a consistent schedule. And he said, aging makes you less resilient to temporal disorientation. Across his life, Michel Siffre turned himself into a human time experiment. He proved that the body has an internal clock, but that clock drifts and it wobbles and it breaks down under extreme pressure. It's a delicate system. And when you unplug completely from sunlight, structure, society, and it starts to kind of tick at its own beat, its own pace. So there you have it. Michel Siffre didn't just study time, he lived without it. And in doing so, he helped reveal how deeply our minds and bodies are wired to the rhythms of the earth, even when we think we've left that clock behind. And this whole thing, his volunteering to do this, reminded me a bit of the Minnesota starvation experiment episode that I did. Go check that one out. Let me find a date on that real fast. Got my giant calendar. The Minnesota starvation experiment episode was on June 4th. So go check that one out if you're interested in these kind of extreme studies that people volunteer themselves for. But yeah, I just thought that was a cool one. Go check out my sources for this, which you can find in the YouTube description. Go check out the 1-minute version that I do of all my episodes at Smartest Year Ever, everywhere on social media. And in the meantime, stay curious and stay clever on our quest to become the world's greatest conversationalists. I will see you tomorrow in the Smartest Year Ever.